regular board meeting of Lathrop Manteca Fire District to order for May 16th. Roll call.
Chairman John Gish.
Here.
Vice Chair Mark Elliott.
Here.
Director Gloriana Rhodes. Here. Director Jeremy Coe.
Present.
Director Tosh Ishihara.
Here.
Join me with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I always, voice absence always come in. Declaration of conflicts of interest. To my left?
None.
To my right?
None.
On 9.1, I'll step down and let the Vice Chairman take that item. No presentations? Public comment?
No requests at this time, Mr. Chair.
Don't see none. Consent calendar.
Consent calendar item 8.1, April 18th, 2019, regular board meeting minutes. 8.2, monthly register of warrants. 8.3, receive and file April 2019 incident and training report. 8.4, receive and file monthly year-to-date budget report.
Anything to be pulled to my right?
No.
To my left?
Nope.
Entertain a motion?
So moved that we approve the consent calendar?
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call.
Director Gloriana Rhodes.
Yes.
Director Jeremy Coe.
Yes.
Director Tosh Ishihara.
Yes.
Vice Chair Mark Elliott.
Yes.
Chairman John Gish.
Yes. Schedule items 9.1. I'll hand it over to the Vice Chairman.
Alrighty, 9.1, approve pre-annexation agreement with the Benito Family Trust.
Yeah, so just bring everybody up to speed. We didn't do a big presentation on this because we had already talked about this. This is one of the last final steps to get it done. The pre-annexation agreement has been in front of you guys. You guys had a chance to look at it. It seemed pretty reasonable. Colin Tuno, our attorney, is the one that made it all up, working with their attorney to make sure everything was good. Once this is done, they'll submit for the annexation, and we'll have it processed.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Is there any questions from the board?
No, I have no question.
Okay, all right. I think we'll entertain, you need a motion, and
Yeah.
entertain a motion on item 9.1.
I make a motion that we approve the pre-annexation agreement with Benito Family Trust.
I'll second that. Can we have a vote, please? Roll call, please.
Director Gloriana Rhodes.
Yes.
Director Jeremy Coe.
Yes.
Director Tosh Ishihara.
Yes.
Chairman John Gish. Vice Chair Mark Elliott.
Yes.
Chairman John Gish recused himself from the...
Yeah. So we'll bring in Chairman Gish for item 9.2.
Item 9.2, we're just I'm gonna have Ms. Salazar go over the item. It typically is a couple that we've brought to you that one had legal look at. So there's been some changes. If we handed those out, right? Okay. So there was some changes from legal that they wanted to make, and we incorporated those, and then the rest of them are just adding to the governance policies. And as we go through them, we'll be bringing more to you.
Item 9.2. Item 9.2, governance policies adoption. Enclosed are 3 governance policies that have been previously presented before the board at the January and April board meetings. The policies staff are seeking to adopt are as follows. .17, infrastructure replacement policy. .18, draft LMFD training room reservation policy. .19, reimbursement of training and travel expenses policy. At the January 2019 regular board meeting, Jack Dials of Management Advisory Services presented approximately 14 to 15 policies to the board. Staff is bringing back these policies after review for adoption. .17, infrastructure replacement policy, and .19, reimbursement of training and travel expenses policy. At the April 2019 regular board meeting, staff presented the board with the draft policy for training room reservations. The board suggested amendments to be made and for legal to be canceled before adoption. Staff is bringing back the amended policy for adoption. .18, draft LMFD training room reservation policy. Staff recommends the board approve and adopt governance policies. .17, infrastructure replacement policy. .18, LMFD large training room reservation policy. And .19, reimbursement of training and travel expenses policy. The fiscal impact is none. Any questions?
Questions to the left?
I have none.
Yeah. Is that right?
Perfect.
Entertain a motion to approve 9.2.
Yes.
Go for it.
Go ahead.
I'll move to approve item 9.2.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call vote.
Director Gloriana Rhodes.
Yes.
Director Jeremy Coe.
Yes.
Director Tosh Ishihara.
Yes.
Vice Chair Mark Elliott.
Yes.
Chairman John Fish.
Yes. Informational items, 10.1, update on brush 35.
And so this next item, Chief Capper will go over it with you. He'll present it.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, Directors, Chief, and staff. Battalion Chief Josh Capper on A shift. I will be going over and giving you an update on Brush 35's current production status. A little bit of background. So Brush 35 is currently under construction and is nearing completion. This report is to show the progress that has been made up to date. So the little background information is in 2018, the Fire Board approved the purchase of a new Type 3 fire engine to help mitigate the impacts of the new development within the River Islands. Brush 35 is a smaller type of fire engine with four-wheel drive capabilities, and that can gain access to areas that are inaccessible by other apparatus. Because River Islands is projected to have nearly 1,000 acres of wildlife refuge, 18 plus miles of riverfront access, as well as flood mitigation areas, the need for a vehicle that is capable of accessing the emergencies within those areas was apparent. So you can see, obviously, the River Islands development. On the periphery is all the natural wildlife areas, the flood mitigation areas, and the riverfront area. So Pierce Manufacturing was awarded the contract and has been building the apparatus at their Florida plant. The schedule for completion and inspection are estimated to be near the end of May of this year. And there's some pictures that I put in here. I don't know if you saw that in your packet, correct? Yeah. So as you can see, the vehicle is getting close to being completed. Yeah. There's some final touch-up stuff to do, and then there's probably going to be about 2 weeks worth of testing that will need to be completed before it's good to go. There's the interior cab portion. Any questions?
Any questions to the left?
No, no, I have none. It's great.
Is this one being delivered, or are we picking it up?
It'll be delivered. If we can pick it up, but then we have to have the insurance, and it's kind of a mess. It's easier for them just to deliver it, and that way, if anything happens to it from there to here, they get it fixed.
That's it.
Anything to the right? Beautiful looking engine.
Unless you want to go grab it. I mean, it's a nice trip back. That's a long ride, but
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
10.2, Chief's report.
So we have update on Station 31. We're still working through. We met with Bill, our architect, Bill Louie from WLC. He's working up, and we'll probably get together as a group again one more time once he comes up. He does want his engineering team to come out and do one more assessment on there. I'm gonna either next month, probably next month, be bringing a contract for him to get totally engaged with Station 31. Battalion quarters, I'm waiting for one more bid back so that we have the 3 bids, but it looks like we pretty much have narrowed it down. We're waiting for the final bid. That contractor had to go out and do per diem, and he had to make sure that he had prevailing wage put into his contract because it's a government building, and they're gonna have to work through that. But I think we're right in the ballpark where we wanna be with that, and we probably hoping to start work maybe by next month. We'll have that done and ready to go. Behind the Fire breakfast is coming tomorrow, Saturday. So if you're hungry for pancakes and want to be there, there's going to be some great raffle prizes. Breakfast is free, obviously, and come have breakfast with firefighters. And I'd like the people to have breakfast with their board if the guys are willing to attend. If you can find time, should be great for the day. I was told. I was a little worried about it, but somebody just told me that if you have anything to do, Saturday's the day to do it. So let's do breakfast. I'll buy. As I can't remember her name.
According to the weatherman, they can be right. And keep
Oh,
their
that's
job.
true. That's true. I was telling somebody, and then she announced it at the senior breakfast. What's her name? Regina. She quoted it as being free 99.
Free 99.
So hopefully we'll get a lot of people coming to that. That'd be great. And then I just want to update you on a couple Senate bills. One is 438. I just found out about another one. And so Ms. Rhodes is going to pass them out. And so Senate Bill 438 has been a big deal for the fire chiefs. The California fire chiefs supported it. The JPA that we're involved supported it. And it goes over about contracting for 911 services. And it has some limitations. It's in its final right at the point that there was some modifications to it from the original. It did go to it hasn't gone to the floor yet, but the Senate has had different committees look at it. We represented it and went to one committee. It was the Health and Safety Committee, I think. And all the chiefs were there. There was a room full of fire chiefs from up and down the state of California. So take some time and read it. If it comes to it, we may come back to you guys for a letter of support. The JPA voted and supported it, and we attended as the president of that JPA. And so we'll look forward to how this plays out. It has some consequences to what's going on, what the normal is right now, and so, but I think that it's all good for whatever result it comes to. In a nutshell, what it says is a private agency cannot be contracted to do 911 services for a government agency. So if I'm a government agency and Director Elliott was a private agency, he cannot dispatch my 911 services for me.
Oh, wow.
And so it gives some limitations. I think we were there when Senator Hertzberg was presenting it to the Health and Safety Committee, and it was a 9-0 vote at that. They voted 9 to move it on to the next phase. But it was interesting because some of the senators were definitely said that 911 dispatch needs to be from a government agency. It needs to come from a government agency. But there was some concern of whether this was overriding the EMS director's authority to establish scope. And so I think people got up there and spoke, and I think that was resolved some of the issues. No one's trying to say that the EMS director cannot tell us no one's trying to say that the EMS director cannot determine a scope for delivering emergency services. If he wants to tell us that we can use this much epi, this type of laryngoscope, these type of tubes, that is all within his purview. What we're trying to say is you can't tell us that Lathrop can't do ALS. You don't get to have the authority to say we can't do it. If we have the means, the money, and the people trained, you can't say we can't do it. You can tell me how I have to do it,
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's what your job is. But we're saying you can't tell us that I can't do it. And that's been a big rub and a big push. And so it's also been with 911 dispatch and stuff. So we're working through some of it. We'll see how it all comes out in the wash. It's legislation, so it'll come back in front of you guys again.
If I may, real quick, just to give you a heads up that when I got the flyer for the breakfast on Saturday, I sent an invite to a number of elected officials, and I got responses back or acceptance to the invitation from a number of them, and I did get it from Eggman and Galgiani, so there's a big chance they may be there on Saturday.
That'd be
Yeah.
great. That'd be great. The next one is Assembly Bill. It's number 1168, and so it has to do with 911 Assistance Act to provide that each local public agency within its respective jurisdiction establish a basic system that automatically connects a person dialing 911 to an established public safety answering point through normal telephone service facilities or be part of such a system. So it has a lot to do with the 911 system and how that works out. It's on our radar, we're watching it, but it doesn't necessarily have to have any action from us at this time. So the Senate bill will be, it goes on the Senate floor, it gets voted, and then it goes to the Assembly. And so, like School Rock, it's just a bill. So, anyways, any questions?
I have a question. You mentioned that you'd be coming to us later, looking for support from the board on SB 438.
Yeah.
Okay. And according to the state's website, Lathrop Manteca Fire Protection District is already listed as in support as of 5/3/19. So how did that come to be?
So that came to be because we're part of the JPA, and the JPA voted on it. And so we're a member of that JPA, so each member of that JPA sent
So
support.
what's the purpose of coming back to us after the fact for a letter of support?
Because there's different committees and assemblies that it goes in front of. So each one has a letter of support with different members that are associated with it.
Okay. And then as far as AB 1168, do you know if our current dispatch center is already compliant and where they are with that?
No, I just got this one the other day and I haven't really got deep into it yet, but
And do you have any idea how many PSAPs in California are at that point yet?
nope.
Nope, me either.
Okay, fair enough. Well, we're on the same page with that one then.
That's it. Sure.
I think that's all I have. These are just goals and objectives that we've accomplished, and I update you as we go along. So when we get to the end of the year, which is coming up, we'll review everything that we set out to and everything that we got accomplished. So, and then board comments and referrals.
11, board comments and referrals. To my right.
I have none, except that I will see you all on Saturday, and I did post all over the place and sent out some personal invitations to Saturday, and it was kind of cute too, because I actually got a message from somebody that said that they couldn't be there, but to let them know where they could donate, and I told them, oh no, it was a free breakfast, but if you want to buy a T-shirt or in one of our, or a brick for the station or something, just let me know, so,
Oh,
yeah.
good.
Yeah, although I'll tell you, to me, because Ronnie ate so much, it was the most expensive free breakfast I've ever been to, because Ronnie kept, every time he'd go up for more food, he'd put the bucks out, and I told him, I said, this time you either eat less or tip less, because we were broke by the time we left the breakfast.
Fair enough. I know that.
Vice Chair.
No, thank you for the invite, yeah. No, I'll plan on being there too, but thank you.
To the left.
As far as the pancake breakfast, if the kids' soccer games get canceled, then I'll probably be there, but it looks like if you said the weather's good, I guess we won't be there.
Oh,
Yeah, it should be.
7:30 on the field, so, and we have 3 games that day. But I did want to bring something else up. It's a sensitive matter, but on January 29th, the board received, the entire board received an email from outside requesting that we be made aware of something. And at that time, the board chair did communicate to the rest of the board that the matter was being looked into. And on May 9th, I had requested from the chair that the board be updated with that situation. And he provided an email updating us. But what wasn't addressed and what I didn't feel comfortable talking to him privately about was that ever communicated to the original complainant? And I don't know if that's something that can be shared here or honor my request for a closed session to discuss that.
So, if I may, you're getting into a personnel matter, that there's a policy that came about for that, and that policy's been followed. So I don't know where you want to go with that. There was no direction to answer that back. And so I think we're on shaky ground here because you're violating a policy.
I'm not violating any policy.
So
Chief.
you're violating the policy because the policy clearly states what actions are supposed to happen. Those actions did happen.
And I also brought up that policy, the current copy the board has is not the same copy that was last approved either.
Right, but the rest of the board didn't ask for it, and the people who asked for it got the policy. And so at this point, I'm going to have a point of order that discussion be done. Because you're
Then
getting into
I honor,
personnel.
and I request that this be brought to closed session like I had asked the board chair.
There was nothing to be brought.
He's already told you that, right? He's already answered that.
My question was unanswered.
I thought the chair told you that he wasn't going to have a closed session.
Was there anything sent back to the person that made the comment?
Yes.
Is that public record?
No,
No.
Because,
it's a personnel
Personal
item.
issue.
but it was brought to the 5 of us, it was brought to our attention, so therefore it's public record.
Not everything is public record. I can have the attorney look into that if you want. That's
I would.
fine.
And I would request that we have a closed session meeting
We're
with the
not going
attorney
to have
on
a
that.
closed session based on one board member. There's rules, let me
Okay.
finish, I have the floor. There is rules that are basically, just because you're a board member, sir, does not give you the right to violate the policies of the board. The board has a policy in place of how closed sessions come to about.
Okay.
You don't get to call a closed session. The board chair or 3 members in writing can request that. That has not taken place. That's not. That hasn't the fact. So for you to call a closed session on that item, you want the answer. Nobody else has requested that answer at this point, just you. So if you want legal to look into that, I'll get that information and I'll send it to you. That's where that goes.
if I may, because we are getting into a very, very delicate situation, I think that there is a misunderstanding as to the policy itself. So if there is any way that we can address, maybe the attorney should address, to us the policy. In other words, if all 5 of us are not in agreement as to what the policy really means, we're going to have problems in the future. Without getting into any violations of the policy, is there a way, Chief, that we can look at the policy and ensure that we are all in agreement with the policy? Because and the only reason I'm bringing this up is because I went through it myself. And without getting into any details whatsoever of it, When I followed that policy as a chair, there was misunderstandings and there was board members that challenged me on it. So at one point, we have to all be in agreement to that policy.
I agree moving
Yeah.
forward, but you can't go backwards with a policy.
I fully agree. What I'm talking about is, I mean, in any agency, there are going to be complaints and things brought up about board members, about staff, about, the community itself. So, but when you're talking about a policy of the board, there has to be an agreement of all board members. And if I'm not mistaken, when Ty Payton was a board member, there was also challenges to that, to another policy. So in other words, if the board is going to have policies, we need to all be in agreement as to what they identify. And I got to tell you, that policy is a little bit confusing. I had to read it 2 or 3 times, and I think what it is because we've tried to dissect it so many times, we've added and we've taken it away, and we might have made it to where it's not completely clear. But looking at it, coming to agreement with it, and then all board members saying, yes, this is what it is.
So-
You're lucky as a chairperson, because I was challenged big time in terms of the policy way back, and you know that.
Right.
Yeah.
So the policy basically states the chair has the authority to evaluate the situation, and that's what it states.
Yeah.
It states simply that. And so it doesn't have the authority for anybody else besides the chair to do that. And then once that determination is made by the chair, right, it states that exactly, then it will go forward. It's the chair. So interaction from the other board is violating the policy. And I just want to tell you that right there, you're adding to a slippery slope. Second, it just seems like, I get that you don't like what the outcome or whatever the situation is, and you feel that you want to interject yourself. But at this point, I'm feeling like we may need to conduct an investigation on some of the board members, because I'm going to go ahead and contact legal and have him contact an investigator, because I feel that the policies are being violated, 1. Ordinance 1 is being violated. People are contacting employees and violating the rules and regulations, and I think we need to look into potentially having the board evaluated and maybe some information
I
given
think
to
it's a
them.
good idea, yeah.
Mr. Chair, if you don't mind.
Just don't keep trickling in. You got to remember, he's covered under firefighter bill of rights right along with the other employee that was complained about. So unless you want to put the district and yourself in jeopardy liability-wise.
I am not in any way trying to do that. What I'm trying to do was just get a simple question answered, which you just answered. You did not answer that previous, and I give you the opportunity, and you chose not to. So now that you've answered the question, as Director Rhodes mentioned, maybe we do need to review that policy. So under the board referrals, I guess what I'm asking is making my notice that I'm requesting that we do this, and if the other board members agree that we review that policy, then we review that policy.
Speaker, may I
Go
say?
ahead.
I think just because the board member has to go through the chair, the special, close, but it should be 3 other board members has to agree, because you can't just have the chair automatically say, we're going to have a closed session. So I think legally we
understand
look
that.
at the legal part of,
So how do I tell the board chair, how does 3 of us independently come up with this decision without us having the ability to talk about it here?
You brought it up. Now the rest of the board can.
Like earlier in the year, something like this similar happened, where investigation possibly should be done about that. I really feel this is, the chief's remarks right now is really, the sole intention of those remarks is retaliation for just me making comments about the subject.
No, I've been approached by some other people that have been complaining about some stuff that board members have said to employees, so.
Okay?
And chief's aware of it also, so.
That's why, if I may, it is critical that the board understands the policy and says, yes, we're going to respect it. The only way to do that is to find, and it's not a closed session issue because we cannot go back and revisit anything. It would have to be a public thing in which we look at the policies themselves, and if there's any other policy to bring it up. There is a little confusion in there that could open us up for something without going into anything related to the case itself. The policy may not be 100% clear, and it's not the staff's fault or the board staff. I think that because we've been in this situation before, we really need to make sure that we make it bulletproof, and then in the future that nobody questions it, for the sake of the board, for the sake of the staff, and for the sake of the public that brings things up. So I don't know if anybody agrees with me in that, but
So there's two policies that have been mentioned. One's the firefighter Bill of Rights, and the other one is a decorum, which states when you can call closed session. So which policy do you want to bring back? Both?
Well, there's no conversation on firefighter Bill of Rights. It is what it is.
Right.
Well, I believe you're the one that mentioned Article 1 or whatever
Well, the
you
ones I'm
accused me
talking
of
about-
violating.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear I talked over you.
I said, whatever one you just accused me of violating.
I didn't accuse any, I said board members. I didn't accuse any one person, I said board members,
Understood.
right? I thought I was pretty clear with that. So there is ordinance 1, when you're supposed to be, that how staff works for the fire chief, right? And the fire chief works for the board. There has been members of the board that have reached out and have been given a staff direction. That's a violation of ordinance 1. There's times when the rules and regulations have been violated, where members have been speaking that are not on the e-board, have been speaking to members of the board. That's a violation of the rules and regulations, and when the board member conducts that and allows that, he's also violating the rules and regulations of the board.
Okay.
Okay? And then as far as the, what was the other one I mentioned, ordinance 1? Yeah, there's just been outreach. There's been, I believe, board members that have reached out to other people and other local agencies that have been having conversations about ongoings of the organization that don't necessarily fit the true loyalty to the board position. And so I think that those need to be evaluated and made sure that if that's happening, that the board members is sanctioned. I think the loyalty of the board, in my mind, of how the board's supposed to work is your loyalty to this board comes above and beyond. And that's why you sit down for items that have anything to do with what's going on and with your organization or who you work for.
Absolutely.
So I think we try to do that to the best of our knowledge. I think that everybody just needs to understand that. We've all had classes on the Brown Act, and we all understand that. I don't think we need to be bringing up items. If you want to bring up an item such as you want to review a policy, then just simply bring up the review of a policy. You didn't have to go into lengthy details of how you wanted to bring it up or why. If there was a policy to be brought up, just bring up the policy that you wanted changed.
I've already made it clear why, and that was to get an answer, which was not supplied till tonight. So thank you for that, Mr. Chair, for the effort of transparency. I just thought there should have been a better way to handle that. Whether it's needs to be done in a policy change to handle it differently in the future, then that's something that us as a board will have to decide at a future date.
But I would, if I may, but I would like us to do something because, to be really honest with you, we are a good board, we are a good staff, we are a good team, and we need to do something to prevent these interactions to happening in the future.
Well, my office is always open.
I know.
Any more comments?
My turn.
Your turn.
Well, the breakfast, please, no complaints on the eggs, okay? Because it's free. And so, but looking forward to the breakfast on Saturday. I got a golf tournament tomorrow, so I'll be busy with the golf tournament, running the golf tournament, so. But I want to thank the staff, and once again, thank the firefighters, breakfast at the senior center. I really appreciate that, and we get a lot of feedback, and I think that has, doing that has a lot to do with the community support for the firefighters. Okay, but thank you.
One last thing, great dinner, thank you.
No problems.
Me and Barb will be there Saturday.
Okay.
We have a big day of events with graduations and everything else, but we'll be there in the morning. And with no other comments or agenda items, I'll adjourn the meeting till June 20th, 7 o'clock here at City Hall.
Yay.